vacant lots.
What did we do wrong?
Half-built houses.
Terrible. Terrible.
And unanswered questions.
We were calling and stopping by the office asking what's happened.
Dreams of new homes turned into nightmares for these Lee County homeowners after they hired Southern Premier, owned by a man named Chris Cheney.
So by now, the house is supposed to be built.
Thalia and Rolanda Scrivenis paid Cheney $40,000. And 1 year later, this is what they have to show for it.
Disappointment, just sad.
And they did their homework before hiring him, checking credentials and talking with references.
I did research and looks like we did everything right.
What did you get for your $15,000?
Nothing. Not a thing.
Lisa Johnson shares a similar story, and she's out $15,000.
It was quite devastating to find out that the money had just been taken from us.
Not only do they have a problem with Southern Premier, but they also have a number of subcontractors who Southern Premier did not pay.
Real estate attorney Kevin Drzezinski says that Cheney also burned his subcontractors. And when that happens, the homeowner has to pay a second time to cover the contractor's bad debt.
Those subcontractors have now filed liens against my client's house, seeking to get payment against my client's house, and she's already paid Southern Premier for their work.
So where is Chris Cheney, and where's all the money he took from these people? We went to his former business, but the space is now occupied by new tenants.
And then we went to his house. He didn't answer.
When you go get that license at the state of Florida to be a contractor in the state of Florida, you need to uphold that.
The president of the Cape Coral Construction Industry Association believes that Cheney's actions have damaged the entire industry.
Everybody thinks that it's like a big old, bidding war down here. It isn't. You can either build it for this much or you can't. And the fact is, you can't build for what he was selling it for.
And so the days have turned into months.
We're hoping for the best.
Dahlia and Lisa say they're ready to move on, but they want Chris Cheney to be held accountable.
He should go to jail. I mean, that is just out and out fraud. You just don't conduct business in that manner.
8 different people.
I just wanted a pool for my young daughter and son.
Sold 8 different dreams.
And he basically started a little bit of the work, and then after the hurricane, never came back.
That they say turned into nightmares.
It's a modern day stick-up, Right. They just don't have a gun.
So how much money have you lost throughout this ordeal?
$15,000.
We were down $23,000.
These people claim that 3 different licensed Southwest Florida contractors took their money but didn't finish their projects.
We had liens that exceeded $100,000.
We lost around $40,000.
All 8 filed complaints through the state, the Attorney General's office, or local law enforcement.
It's a serious situation in Florida that something has to be done.
But none of the 3 business owners in question, Christopher Cheney of Southern Premier, Walter Rowley of Sand Dollar Pool and Spa, or Stephen Hunnell, a Marco Island builder, have been arrested, charged, or jailed. A check on their records reveals that Cheney's license is now listed as inactive. Rowley, who was licensed through another man, is now listed as relinquished, and Hunnell still has an active license, although Collier County Sheriff's Office tells NBC2 that they are investigating.
There's no convictions for them. There's no repercussion for their actions, and there really has to be.
2 of these 3 contractors ran their businesses out of Cape Coral, so we took our questions straight to KPD's Corporal Philip Mullen.
So do you think law enforcement is doing everything they can to hold these bad contractors accountable?
I do. Unfortunately, it is a complicated statute, but we can't deal in civil law. We only deal in criminal law.
He's right. Many contractor disputes are civil, but when the NBC2 investigators went to work reading through Florida law, we found Statute 713, also known as the Construction Lien Law. And one provision of that law, 713.345, says if a contractor misuses a construction payment, there are criminal penalties. Real estate attorney Kevin Drzezinski confirms it's a felony.
There is teeth in the law for the people, but the question is whether there is enforced is something that has to be answered by the state attorney or the sheriff's department, how they deal with that.
So we went back to our Southwest Florida law enforcement agencies asking for all incident reports involving Statute 713 for the last 2 years, as well as any other incident report in which a person was arrested regarding contracting work. Fort Myers, Naples, and KPD had 0 reports. The Collier and Charlotte County Sheriff's Offices also had 0, and the Lee County Sheriff's Office had 2 arrests related to contracting fraud. One of those 2 cases has since been dropped by the state attorney's office.
And victims want to know, why aren't police arresting these guys?
Well, from a law enforcement perspective, it starts at the road, of course. Your patrol officer is going to come out and take that complaint. They have to determine whether there's probable cause for an arrest.
It just seems, though, with all these people saying the same thing and having the same stories, it looks like it fits the statute. You know, why does it take so long? You know, why doesn't it fit the statute?
It's a matter of, like I said, we send the warrant request to the state, and we package together the best case we can if we determine that, yes, we believe this rises to the level of a crime, but we have to send it to the state for a filing decision. At that point, you know, we just have to wait to see what comes back from the state.
So we called and emailed our state attorney's office, requesting the total number of complaints or warrant requests involving Florida Statute 713 for the last 2 years. Spokesperson Samantha Sion told me, quote, "There were no public records under that statute. That statute was utilized one time and it is not a public record," end quote. She went on to tell me that the Economics Crimes Unit has had 72 convictions in the last year, none related to contractor fraud.
Do you think that's a problem?
Absolutely.
Definitely sounds like it's a problem.
What would you say to law enforcement? What would you say to the state attorney's office when it comes to contractor fraud?
It's theft.
It's theft,
They proved that they stole money. Arrest them. Put them through, do that a couple of times and people would stop doing it so much.
Right, make an example of a few,
Exactly.
and then the contractors would think twice about taking your money and just pocketing it.
Through public record requests, I also confirmed that 28 Lee, Collier, and Charlotte County contractors lost their licenses over the last 2 years. When I ran their names through court records, I confirmed that 0 faced criminal charges related to contracting fraud. Kelly?
Cape Coral police arrest a contractor for fraud. Christopher Cheney, owner of Southern Premier, is charged after dozens of people told the NBC2 investigators he took their money but didn't do the work.
The NBC2 investigators began reporting on Cheney 1 year ago. Then, less than 2 weeks ago, we pushed the story forward, questioning why Cheney and other accused contractors are rarely arrested or charged. NBC2 investigator Rachel Polansky is live in Cape Coral. Rachel, what do we know about why Cheney was just arrested?
A CCPD spokesperson tells me that the agency sent a warrant request to the state attorney's office for Cheney's arrest back in February. Well, that warrant request was approved today.
What do you have to say to all the people you ripped off? Mr. Cheney. More than a dozen people have told me that builder Chris Cheney, former owner of Southern Premier, took their money but never finished their homes. Tonight, Cheney is being charged with fraud for obtaining property $50,000 or more.
It's been a long time coming.
Lisa Johnson is one of Cheney's former customers. She told me that she paid him $15,000. When he did not do the work, she filed a complaint through the state, the Attorney General's office, and Cape Coral Police. We told her about his arrest this afternoon.
I hope that he will be able to face all of the music and in some way have to repay either some of his victims or the state of Florida that has already paid out some claims on his behalf.
Chris Cheney will have his first appearance tomorrow morning, and I will be there. If he is found guilty of this charge, it is a first-degree felony. Mr. Cheney, if you're found guilty, it is a first-degree felony.
He's not going to make a comment.
Well, there's a lot of people that want to hear from him. I have to ask the questions.
That's NBC2 investigator Rachel Polansky peppering questions to a Cape Coral builder arrested and accused of defrauding the public. It came moments after Christopher Cheney made a court appearance.
The former owner of Southern Premier Homes is accused of taking thousands of dollars from customers and not building their homes. Rachel began reporting on the allegations against him a year and a half ago.
This was the first time in 18 months I've had more than a couple of seconds face-to-face with Chris Cheney. No, I've called him and I've gone to his house 4 times to try and get his side of the story, and he never talked with me. So this time, I walked with him from the courtroom.
Mr. Cheney, there's a lot of people who say you took their money, didn't build their homes. Is there anything you want to say to these people? Christopher Cheney and his attorney, Sean O'Halloran, walked away when I began asking questions and even tried to block me from entering an elevator. This is public property. I'm allowed to go into an elevator. This is public property, sir. We've been trying to talk to you for over a year and a half now.
He's not going to make any comment.
Mr. Cheney, if you're found guilty, it is a first-degree felony.
He's not going to make a comment.
Well, there's a lot of people that want to hear from him. I have to ask the questions. So how did we get here? In August 2017, Southern Premier abruptly shut down. That's when NBC2 first started talking with customers who said Cheney took their money but didn't build their homes.
It was quite devastating to find out that the money had just been taken from us.
In August 2018, 1 year later, customers had filed reports with the state and their local law enforcement, and they were waiting. The NBC2 investigators questioned the Cape Coral police to find out why Cheney and other accused contractors had not been arrested or charged.
And victims want to know, why aren't police arresting these guys?
It just took time. In September 2018, 2 weeks after that investigation aired, Christopher Cheney was arrested and charged with scheme to defraud.
Talk to us, Mr. Cheney. Come on my property. You've been charged with scheme to defraud, Mr. Cheney.
And now, 4 months later, his case management conference.
There's nothing you want to say to all of these people.
It's inappropriate to make a comment on a case that's pending. It's also inappropriate to chase him down the courthouse.
It's also inappropriate to take people's money and not build their homes, and we've been trying to talk to him for over a year and a half.
We're not going to comment on the case while the case is pending.
New at 6 and only on NBC2, contractors held accountable when they don't do the work. A state lawmaker from Port Charlotte filed legislation that would make it easier to go after these guys.
NBC2 investigator Rachel Polansky has reported extensively on the problems, and she's breaking new information that could actually save you hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, that's right. And you know, people always ask me, why aren't these bad contractors getting arrested or jailed? Well, if this new legislation gets passed, it'll make it a lot easier for that to happen.
For the last 2 years,
it's insane. It's frustrating. It's overwhelming.
It's pretty emotional.
You've watched the heart-wrenching interviews.
So how much money have you lost throughout this ordeal?
$15,000.
We lost around $40,000.
And you've watched the NBC2 investigators question law enforcement, attorneys, and even the accused.
Mr. Cheney, there's a lot of people who say you took their money, didn't build their homes. Is there anything you want to say to these people?
Trying to find out why accused contractors rarely face criminal charges. Tonight, we got some answers.
Over time, we've realized, myself and other people in the community, lawmakers in the community, that there's been a difficulty in prosecuting these cases under the theft statute.
State Attorney Amira Fox tells me, simply put, it's because the way the law is written.
Well, it impacts my constituents.
That's why she teamed up with Representative Michael Grant to help him rewrite the statute.
To make it easier for us to prosecute these cases when people get ripped off.
Do you agree that how the law is written right now, it protects the builder or the contractor more so than the consumer?
Yeah, I think if you look at the compass of our laws, the needle is definitely pointed towards the dishonest contractor.
Representative Grant filed his legislation this morning that deletes an intent requirement for contractor fraud offenses and rewrites sections of Statute 489 that address money received by contractors and escrow accounts.
Hopefully this bill, once it's passed, will move that needle and it will protect those who have been fraudulently taken advantage of by dishonest contractors.
Did our stories help bring these issues to your attention?
Absolutely. I guess I knew about HD homes. I didn't realize that it was as rampant as it is in Collier and Lee County. So yes, it definitely had a big impact.
Senator Ben Albritton filed a similar bill in the Senate. Now both bills will go through chambers, and if they get passed, they'll be sent to the governor for a signature.
A lot of people waiting on this one. When do you think it might happen?
All right, so legislative session starts in March, ends in May. So if these revisions go through, it could become law by July 1st. Now, I do want to mention that I talked with a handful of victims today, and they just tell me they are so excited to finally see something being done.